The retirement home's marble floors echoed under my Louboutins as the director led me through the luxury facility. At 32, I was significantly younger than their usual clients' children. But my net worth opened all doors these days. And this is our premium wing, Ms. Carter. Mrs. Reynolds, the director, gestured to a sunlit corridor. Each suite has a private balcony overlooking the gardens. I paused at a window, watching elderly residents being served tea in bone china cups by uniformed staff. My mother would have loved this 10 years ago, before she and my father lost everything. Tell me about your employment opportunities, I said, turning to face Mrs. Reynolds. Her eyebrows lifted slightly at the unexpected question. Employment? I thought you were looking for accommodation for your parents. I smiled, the same smile that had graced Forbes' 30 Under 30 cover last year. I'm interested in both. My parents will need to work to afford staying here. They're only 55, quite capable of serving tea or maintaining gardens. Mrs. Reynolds' professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing surprise before she recovered. I see. That's rather unusual. So was their situation, I replied, my mind drifting back to that day 12 years ago when everything changed. I was 20, standing in our upper middle-class living room, clutching my acceptance letter to MIT's computer science program. My hands trembled with excitement as I showed it to my mother. Full scholarship? She asked, barely glancing up from her fashion magazine. Partial, I explained. I'll need my college fund for the rest. But, she laughed, that dismissive, cutting laugh I'd heard so many times growing up. Oh, honey, your college fund paid for your sister's new Mercedes last month. She needed it for her image consulting business. My world tilted. What? But that money was for my education. Dad promised. Amanda needs to maintain a certain lifestyle for her clients. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Besides, you're not really college material, dear. Someone like you will always be poor. It's just your nature. Better to accept it now. Someone like me? My voice cracked. Well, look at you. She gestured to my second-hand clothes and practical shoes. No style, no ambition beyond those little computer games you play. Amanda has vision, class. She knows how to succeed in the real world. I looked down at my worn laptop where I'd been teaching myself coding since high school. The same laptop I'd bought with money earned from 3 part-time jobs. My programming isn't games, I said quietly. I'm developing security software. It could be worth nothing. Mom cut me off. Just like that ridiculous app idea your father had before he settled into real estate. Speaking of which, he needs you to start full-time at his office. Amanda says answering phones will be perfect for someone of your capabilities. That night, I sat in my small bedroom, surrounded by computer science textbooks I'd bought used. Through the wall, I could hear Amanda showing off her new Mercedes to her friends, their laughter piercing me like needles. I opened my laptop and checked my bank account, $2,478.33. All my savings from years of part-time work. Not enough for MIT, not enough for any college really, but maybe enough for something else. I withdrew every penny the next morning, found the cheapest apartment I could, a studio above a Chinese restaurant that filled my clothes with the constant smell of cooking oil. Moved out while my parents were at one of Amanda's business launches. Left nothing but a note. Someone like me doesn't need your help to succeed. The next 4 years were a blur of work and coding. Days at a tech support call center, nights building my security software. I lived on ramen and coffee, used free Wi-Fi at libraries, and taught myself everything MIT would have taught me through online courses and borrowed textbooks. My first breakthrough came when I discovered a fatal flaw in a major corporation's security system. Instead of exploiting it, I documented it and sent an anonymous report to their CEO. 3 days later, I was in their office, signing a consulting contract worth 6 figures. But I didn't stop there. I built my consulting work into a company, then another. Developed security systems that major banks couldn't operate without. Created algorithms that made headlines in tech magazines. Meanwhile, my family's fortunes moved in the opposite direction. Amanda's image consulting business collapsed when her clients discovered she'd been embezzling from them. Dad's real estate empire crumbled in a market crash. Mom's luxury lifestyle drained what was left of their savings. I watched it all from afar through private investigators' reports and financial records my lawyers obtained. Watched as they remortgaged their house to fund Amanda's failed ventures. watched as they borrowed from loan sharks to maintain appearances, watched as they finally filed for bankruptcy last month. They didn't know I was watching, didn't know that the quiet daughter they dismissed now controlled the company that bought their debt, didn't know that their future quite literally rested in my hands. Miss Carter? Mrs. Reynolds' voice pulled me back to the present. Shall we continue the tour? I nodded, following her down another elegant hallway. My heels clicked against marble floors that cost more than my parents' remaining possessions. Your employment program, I resumed. What positions would be suitable for people in their 50s? My mother has experience in social activities. My father knows property maintenance. We do have openings in our activities department, Mrs. Reynolds said carefully, and our grounds always need attention. The pay is modest, but employees can apply for subsidized residence in our staff wing. I stopped at a large window overlooking a manicured garden. Below, elderly residents played chess and sipped tea, attended by uniformed staff who looked remarkably like what my parents would soon become. Perfect, I said. Now about the staff dress code. My phone buzzed. A text from my assistant. Your parents are waiting in your office as requested. Amanda too. I checked my reflection in the window. The scared girl in secondhand clothes was gone, replaced by a woman in a tailored suit worth more than that Mercedes that had once cost me my future. My mother wouldn't recognize me, but she was about to. Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds, I said, turning away from the window. I'll take the full tour of the staff facilities now. After all, I need to know exactly what I'm offering them. Them? She questioned. My family, I smiled. They're about to learn that someone like me doesn't stay poor forever, and someone like them doesn't stay rich without substance. As we walked toward the staff wing, I thought about the meeting ahead. In my office, my family waited, probably expecting a rescue from their financial ruin. They'd finally traced the company that bought their debt back to me, finally swallowed their pride enough to ask for help. They would get help, just not the kind they expected. They would get exactly what they'd given me, a chance to work their way up from nothing, to learn the value of substance over style, to understand that true worth isn't in what you own, but in what you build. Tell me about your staff training program, I said to Mrs. Reynolds. How long before new employees can advance to better positions? Because that was the real revenge, not seeing them fall, but watching them learn to rise on their own merit. Just like I had. Just like someone like me. The drive back to my office felt surreal. My Bentley glided through downtown streets, past buildings where my security systems protected billions in assets. 12 years ago, I'd walked these same streets in worn-out shoes, carrying my laptop to free Wi-Fi spots. Miss Carter, my assistant Sarah's voice came through the car's speaker. Your family has been waiting for 45 minutes. Your mother has asked for water 3 times, each time requesting a different temperature. I smiled. Some things never changed. And Amanda. She's tried to access our Wi-Fi network twice. I followed protocol and kept them restricted to the basic guest login. Perfect. Any words from my father? He's been quiet, mostly staring at the awards wall, particularly the Forbes cover. Of course he was. That cover story had detailed my rise to success, though it hadn't mentioned my family background. I'd made sure of that. The elevator opened directly into my executive floor. Through the glass walls, I could see them in my waiting area. Mom, still trying to maintain her polished appearance despite her worn designer outfit. Amanda, frantically tapping on her phone, probably searching for any information about me she could find. And Dad, aged beyond his years, shoulders slumped under the weight of their failures. I took a moment to study them unobserved. Mom's hair was gray at the roots. She couldn't afford her monthly salon visits anymore. Amanda's designer bag was a knockoff, something that old Amanda would have scorned. Dad's suit, once custom-tailored, hung loose on his frame. Sarah, I said quietly, initiate recording protocol alpha. Yes, Ms. Carter. Everything will be documented. I pushed open the glass doors. The sound made them all look up, and I watched as confusion turned to shock on their faces. Alexandra? Mom whispered, using my full name, something she'd rarely done when I lived at home. Hello, Mother, I replied coolly. Or do you still believe someone like me will always be poor? She flinched as her own words came back to haunt her. Amanda stood up, smoothing her skirt, a nervous habit she'd always had. Alex, we had no idea. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? I moved to my desk, enjoying the power dynamics of making them look up at me. That the daughter you dismissed as worthless built a billion-dollar empire. That the sister whose college fund you stole now owns your debt. Dad finally spoke, his voice rough. We're here to make things right. No, I corrected him. You're here because you have no choice. The loan sharks you borrowed from. I bought your debt. The bank foreclosing on your house. My subsidiary company. The creditors chasing Amanda for her embezzlement. They work for me now. The color drained from Amanda's face. You can't. That's not legal. I assure you it is. I learned to do everything legally, unlike some people in this room. Mom stepped forward, arms outstretched. Darling, we're family. Surely we can. Family? I cut her off. Was I family when you laughed at my dreams? When you gave my future to Amanda for a car? When you tried to condemn me to answering phones for the rest of my life? Tears welled in her eyes, real ones, not the manipulative tears I'd seen so often growing up. We were wrong. So wrong. Please, Alexandra, we need help. I opened my laptop and turned it to face them. On the screen were photos of Golden Sunset Retirement Community, the facility I'd just visited. Help is exactly what I'm offering, just not the kind you expected. I clicked through the images, the elegant common areas, the manicured gardens, and finally, the staff quarters. Golden Sunset has several job openings: groundskeeper, activities coordinator, service staff. The pay is minimal, but they offer staff housing. You'll have to share rooms, of course, just like I shared that studio above the Chinese restaurant. You expect us to be servants? Amanda's voice rose with indignation. I expect you to work, I corrected her. To earn, to build something real instead of living on appearances and other people's money. Dad sank into a chair. We're too old to start over. I was too poor for college, remember? Yet here we are. I handed them each a folder containing employment applications. You have two choices: work at Golden Sunset, learn the value of honest labor, and slowly pay off your debts, or face the legal consequences of your financial decisions. The loan sharks aren't as patient as I am. Mom opened her folder with trembling hands. And if we do this, if we work there, then every dollar you earn will reduce your debt. Every shift you complete will teach you what I learned 12 years ago. That true worth isn't in what you take, but in what you create. Amanda threw her folder down. This is revenge. You're punishing us. No, sister dear, I'm teaching you. Just like you taught me when you took my college fund for your Mercedes. How is that car, by the way, still running? She looked away. We both knew the car had been repossessed months ago. Why not just help us? Dad asked quietly. You have the means. I stood and walked to my office window, looking out at the city I'd helped secure with my technology. Because you never helped me. You never taught me about money, about business, about self-worth. I had to learn it all the hard way. Now it's your turn. I turned back to face them. You have 24 hours to decide. The jobs start next week. If you choose not to take them, my lawyers will proceed with full debt collection and criminal charges where applicable. And if we take the jobs, Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Then you'll learn what I learned, that rock bottom is actually a foundation if you're willing to build on it. They left my office looking shell-shocked, clutching their folders like lifelines. Through the glass walls, I watched them shuffle to the elevator, 3 broken people facing their first honest choice in years. Sarah entered after they'd gone. The retirement home confirmed they'll hold the positions for 24 hours. Should I prepare the alternative legal proceedings just in case? I picked up the Forbes magazine from my desk, the one Dad had been staring at. My cover photo showed me in this very office, surrounded by symbols of success. No, I said. They'll take the jobs. They have nowhere else to go, just like I didn't 12 years ago. Because sometimes I learned the biggest favor you can do for someone is to let them fall far enough to find their own strength to rise. 3 months after my family started working at Golden Sunset, I sat in my private office reviewing their progress reports. Mrs. Reynolds had been thorough in her documentation, just as I'd requested. My mother, once the queen of social climbing, now served tea to residents who reminded her of her former friends. Her first week had been a disaster, 3 broken tea sets and countless complaints about her attitude. But the latest report showed improvement. Mrs. Carter has learned to listen to residents' stories with genuine interest, Mrs. Reynolds noted. Her natural social skills are emerging in a more authentic way. Amanda's file was thicker. My sister, who once charged thousands for image consulting, now led basic exercise classes and helped with recreational activities. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Her first month had been marked by tantrums and tears, but something had changed recently. Ms. Carter has shown particular patience with memory care patients, the report read. She's developed innovative ways to engage with our most challenging residents. Dad's transformation was perhaps the most striking. The man who once built a real estate empire on shaky loans now maintained the retirement home's gardens with meticulous care. Mr. Carter has requested permission to start a vegetable garden with interested residents, Mrs. Reynolds wrote. His interaction with them has become notably paternal. I closed the files and walked to my window, remembering my own transformation years ago. The night I'd moved into that tiny studio, I cried myself to sleep. But by morning, determination had replaced tears. Every setback had become a lesson, every struggle a stepping stone. My phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Reynolds. Your mother asked about you today. First time since they started. I hadn't visited Golden Sunset since my family started working there. I watched through reports and security cameras, maintaining my distance while they learned the lessons I'd learned long ago. What did she say? I texted back. She was helping a resident who used to be a software engineer. When he mentioned security systems, she said, "My daughter works in that field. She built something remarkable from nothing." There were tears in her eyes. I sat down at my desk, letting that sink in. My mother, who once laughed at my computer games, was proud of my work. The thought stirred something I'd buried long ago, the wish for parental approval I'd forced myself to outgrow. Another text came through. Your father's vegetable garden proposal. Thought you might want to see it. The attached document was handwritten, 5 pages of careful plans, budget calculations, and projected benefits for the residents. At the bottom, he'd written, I want to build something real this time, something that grows. I found myself reaching for my car keys before I'd made a conscious decision. The drive to Golden Sunset took 30 minutes, time enough to question my choice a dozen times. The facility looked different in the late afternoon light. I parked in the visitor lot, avoiding the staff entrance where my family might be. Mrs. Reynolds met me at the door. They're all working right now, she said, reading my hesitation. Would you like to observe? I nodded, following her through the halls I'd last seen 3 months ago. We stopped at a large window overlooking the garden. Dad was there, kneeling in the dirt, showing an elderly resident how to plant tomato seedlings. His uniform was dirty, his hands were stained with soil, but his face held a peace I'd never seen before. The residents love him, Mrs. Reynolds said softly. They call him the garden whisperer. In the activity room, Amanda was leading a gentle yoga class. Gone was her designer workout wear, replaced by simple staff attire. She moved slowly, adjusting her pace to accommodate her elderly students, encouraging them with genuine warmth. She created a modified program specifically for our arthritis patients, Mrs. Reynolds explained. Completely different from her old life, but somehow more meaningful. Finally, we reached the tea room. Mom was there, serving drinks and snacks with a grace that had nothing to do with social climbing. She sat with each resident, listening to their stories, offering genuine responses instead of practiced charm. Your mother has a gift for making people feel heard, Mrs. Reynolds observed. When she stopped performing and started connecting, everything changed. I watched them all, these transformed versions of my family, feeling something shift in my own heart. The revenge I planned had become something else, something more like rehabilitation. How much have they paid off? I asked. Mrs. Reynolds consulted her tablet. With room and board deducted, about 2% of their debt. At this rate, it will take them 15 years. I nodded, making a decision. Have them meet me in your office tomorrow morning. It's time for a performance review. All of them. Yes, it's time they learned about investment and returns. The right way this time. As I drove back to my office, I thought about growth, not just of bank accounts and businesses, but of people. My family had lost everything material, but they were gaining something I found in that tiny studio above the Chinese restaurant, the knowledge that true worth comes from what you build, not what you take. Tomorrow, I would offer them a new lesson. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But a chance to accelerate their redemption through merit rather than manipulation. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't watching people fall. It's teaching them how to rise. The morning sun streamed through Mrs. Reynolds' office windows as my family filed in, still in their work uniforms. They looked different now, humbler, but somehow more dignified. 6 months had passed since they'd started at Golden Sunset, and each day had left its mark. "Please sit," I said, gesturing to the chairs arranged before the desk. They sat quietly, no demands, no assumptions. That alone showed how far they'd come. "I've been reviewing your progress," I began, opening their files. "Mrs. Reynolds has been quite thorough in her reports." Mom's hands twisted in her lap, a nervous gesture I'd never seen in her perfectly poised past. Have we done something wrong?" "On the contrary," I replied. "You've done something right. For the first time in your lives, perhaps." I turned to Dad first. "Your vegetable garden project has saved the facility 15% on fresh produce costs. More importantly, it's given purpose to 12 residents who now help maintain it." He straightened slightly, pride replacing shame in his eyes. "Amanda, your modified exercise programs have reduced fall incidents by 30%. 3 other retirement homes have requested your training protocol." My sister blinked back tears, real ones, not the manipulative kind she once used so effectively. "And Mother, your resident engagement scores are the highest in the facility's history. You found your genuine voice." Mom looked down at her hands that now served others instead of demanding service. "You've paid off 2% of your debt," I continued. "At this rate, you'll be free of it in 15 years. They nodded, accepting this future they'd earned. But I wasn't finished. "However, I'm offering you an investment opportunity." Their heads snapped up in unison. "Not the kind you're used to," I added quickly. "No quick fixes, no shortcuts. Instead, I'm offering to match every dollar you earn and put toward your debt. Dollar for dollar, earned through honest work." "Why?" Amanda asked softly, "after everything we did." I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the garden Dad had built. "Because you've learned what I learned in that studio apartment 12 years ago. That worth isn't inherited or stolen. It's built." Turning back, I faced my family. "You've built something here. Not empires or fortunes, but something more valuable. You've built character." Dad cleared his throat. "The garden, it taught me about patience, about nurturing growth instead of forcing it." My yoga students, Amanda added, "they don't care about image or status. They just want to feel better, move better, help each other." Mom looked up, meeting my eyes. "I serve tea to women I used to compete with at charity galas. Now I know their real stories, their real lives. I prefer this version of myself." I nodded, feeling the last pieces of old anger dissolve. "Then let's build on that. Keep working, keep growing, keep serving. But now every step forward will count double." "Thank you, Alexandra," Dad said quietly. "Not for the money matching, but for teaching us what you learned, for giving us this chance." "You're not finished learning," I reminded them. "Neither am I." Mrs. Reynolds, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "They've already changed so many lives here, not just their own." "Yes," I agreed. "And that's the final lesson, isn't it? Success isn't about what you have. It's about what you give." I gathered my things, preparing to leave, but Mom stood up, hesitating before speaking. Would you like to have tea with me sometime? Just tea, no expectations, no past. Just tea." I looked at her, really looked at her. The designer clothes and perfect makeup were gone, replaced by something more authentic, something real. "Yes," I said. "I'd like that." As I drove away from Golden Sunset, I thought about revenge and redemption, about falling and rising, about the true meaning of worth. My family had lost everything they thought mattered, only to find what actually did. And maybe, just maybe, we'd all found something else along the way, a chance to build not just success, but understanding. Not just wealth, but wisdom. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's resurrection.